Recent headlines have suggested Ford Motor Company is shutting down, sparking concern and speculation among both industry insiders and the general public. But the reality is more nuanced than the headlines suggest, and it's important to look beyond the surface. On July 21, 2025, Ford will temporarily pause production at its Rouge Electric Vehicle Center in Dearborn, Michigan, the plant that builds the all-electric F-150 Lightning, one of the company's most innovative vehicles. This is a short-term, targeted shutdown, not a permanent closure or a sign of financial distress. The main reason is a global shortage of semiconductor chips, which are essential for modern vehicles, powering everything from safety systems to infotainment. Without these chips, production simply can't continue, and automakers worldwide are feeling the impact. The shutdown is expected to last at least a week, but the situation is fluid and could change depending on how quickly supplies are restored. Ford's leadership has been upfront. This is a direct result of ongoing supply chain issues that have plagued the industry since the pandemic, affecting everything from raw materials to finished parts. Earlier this year, Ford also paused another U.S. factory due to a shortage of rare earth minerals, showing the company faces multiple supply chain bottlenecks that are outside its immediate control. These disruptions force automakers like Ford to make quick, tactical decisions to manage inventory and production, balancing workforce needs and customer demand. It's important to distinguish between a temporary targeted shutdown and a full-scale collapse. These are very different scenarios. Ford is idling one production line to align with available parts, a common strategy in manufacturing that helps avoid waste and maintain efficiency. The F-150 Lightning plant's pause is about a single critical component, not a sign Ford is abandoning U.S. manufacturing or its commitment to electric vehicles. This is a calculated response to a specific challenge, demonstrating Ford's resilience and adaptability, not a retreat from American industry or innovation. When a plant like the Rouge Electric Vehicle Center shuts down, the impact is immediate for its 3,200 hourly workers. These employees face temporary layoffs, disrupting their income and daily lives. Thanks to strong union contracts, workers receive about 75% of their pay through supplemental unemployment benefits. This safety net helps families cover essentials, but uncertainty and stress remain. The duration of the layoff is unclear, and repeated shutdowns can erode morale. Beyond Ford, local businesses also feel the pinch as workers spend less, creating ripple effects throughout the community. A single factory's pause isn't just a corporate issue, it affects the economic health of the entire region. The story of a shutdown is about more than supply chains, it's about the livelihoods of thousands. For Dearborn and similar towns, the stakes are personal and profound. To understand Ford's shutdowns, we need to revisit the COVID-19 pandemic's impact on global supply chains. Automakers canceled chip orders in 2020, while electronics demand soared, pushing car companies to the back of the line. When vehicle demand rebounded, a severe chip shortage hit. Modern cars need thousands of semiconductors, and missing even one can halt production. The crisis exposed how fragile and interconnected the supply chain is. Ford's recent shutdowns also highlight another vulnerability: rare earth minerals, mostly sourced from China. The U.S. imports about 90% of these minerals, making automakers dependent on global politics and trade. The just-in-time manufacturing model, once praised for efficiency, has proven risky in a volatile world. Now, automakers must balance efficiency with resilience, facing chip shortages one month and mineral scarcity the next. The industry is rethinking its entire approach, prioritizing stability over pure cost-cutting. Amid real news of Ford's targeted shutdowns, viral rumors claimed the company was abandoning U.S. manufacturing entirely. These false stories, spread by sensational YouTube channels, were quickly debunked by fact-checkers. Ford has made no announcement of a total U.S. exit. There's no evidence to support these claims. The company remains committed to American manufacturing even as it faces real challenges from tariffs and supply chain disruptions. Temporary plant pauses are strategic responses, not signs of collapse. It's crucial to separate fact from fiction. Ford's actions are about managing real-world problems, not fleeing the country. Misinformation only distracts from the real issues, like strengthening domestic supply chains. The real story is about adaptation, not abandonment. Ford's production halts quickly became political ammunition, especially with the 2028 election looming. Former President Trump blamed the shutdowns on the Biden administration's EV policies, calling them job killers. He argued that government support for electric vehicles is hurting traditional automakers and the economy. However, the chip shortage began years ago and is driven by global factors beyond any one administration. The debate highlights a deep partisan divide over America's industrial future, EVs and green energy versus traditional manufacturing. For Trump's base, the Ford shutdown is a symbol of flawed policy. For others, it's a complex global challenge. The story is less about politics and more about the realities of a changing industry. Ford's May 2025 shutdown was triggered by a rare earth mineral shortage after China tightened export controls amid escalating trade tensions between the two countries. The move sent shockwaves through the global supply chain, highlighting just how interconnected and vulnerable major industries have become. U.S. companies suddenly faced new licensing hurdles, disrupting supply chains overnight and leaving manufacturers scrambling for alternatives. The abrupt halt exposed the fragility of just-in-time inventory systems. With 90% of rare earths imported from China, American manufacturers had little leverage to negotiate or adapt quickly. The dependency was stark and immediate. These minerals are vital for EV motors, wind turbines, and countless high-tech devices, making China's dominance a strategic risk for the U.S. economy and national security. A temporary diplomatic agreement in June 2025 eased the crisis, allowing some shipments to resume, but the underlying vulnerability remains unresolved. The incident was a wake-up call for U.S. policymakers. Relying on a single source for critical materials is unsustainable and risky in a volatile geopolitical climate. Calls are growing for domestic investment in mining, processing, and manufacturing of rare earths, as well as for building strategic reserves to buffer future shocks. The Ford shutdown showed the high cost of inaction, not just for one company, but for the entire American industrial sector. Building a secure supply chain will be expensive and time-consuming, requiring coordination between government and industry, but it's now seen as essential for long-term stability. The lesson is clear. America's industrial future depends on reducing dependency on adversarial nations and investing in its own capabilities. The June resolution was a band-aid, not a cure, and the risk of future disruptions still looms large. The push for domestic resilience is just beginning, and the coming years will test America's resolve to secure its industrial future. Facing ongoing disruptions and a slower-than-expected EV market, Ford is adjusting its strategy. The company is delaying new electric models and doubling down on hybrids, planning to offer hybrid options across its North American lineup by 2030. Hybrids bridge the gap for consumers wary of EV range and charging while still advancing emissions goals. This diversified approach makes Ford less vulnerable to shortages in any single technology. Ford is also rethinking its supply chain, building inventories, diversifying suppliers, and investing in U.S. battery plants. The just-in-time model is giving way to a just-in-case philosophy. Flexibility and resilience are now as important as innovation. The recent shutdowns have taught Ford to adapt quickly and plan for uncertainty. The company remains committed to electrification, but with a more pragmatic, flexible path. Ford's new normal is about managing risk as much as building cars. Ford's shutdowns signal a new era for the U.S. auto industry, one defined by uncertainty, adaptation, and a need to rethink old assumptions about how cars are made. Workers face recurring instability, even with union protections, as supply chain volatility continues to disrupt their daily lives and long-term job security. Buyers will see fewer vehicles on lots and higher prices, as manufacturers pass on the costs of building more resilient supply chains and investing in new technologies. The industry is moving away from hyper-efficient globalized production toward resilience and domestic investment, prioritizing stability over speed. Automakers are racing to secure local sources for batteries, chips, and minerals, requiring massive capital, new partnerships, and a willingness to innovate. The transition to electric vehicles brings both opportunity and disruption, demanding new skills, retraining for workers, and a shift in how the workforce is prepared for the future. The real story isn't collapse, but a necessary evolution to meet global challenges, climate goals, and the changing demands of consumers. Success will depend on patience, investment, and a willingness to adapt at every level, from factory floor to boardroom. The road ahead is uncertain, but the goal is a stronger, more secure automotive industry that can weather future storms and continue to innovate. Ford's experience is a preview of the transformation facing all of American manufacturing, as industries across the country adapt to a rapidly changing world.